Hello. I guess we are live. Welcome, everyone. My name is Charles Soule. I am going to be your host, your moderator, your Emperor Palpatine tonight for this event celebrating Star Wars: The High Republic as we move into Wave 2 of Phase 1 of all the incredible book releases. I am one of the 5 authors who kicked off The High Republic last January, and I am joined by my colleagues who are also, I'm proud to say, my good friend. So first we've got Claudia Gray. There she is. We've got Justina Ireland. Waving, good. We've got Daniel Jose Older right there. He's going to wave. Yep, he's pointing. That works. It's almost like he's dancing. He's dancing. Great. And we got Cavan Scott, last but absolutely not least. Fantastic. So tonight we are going to be talking about the new books that are coming out this week and soon as part of Wave 2 of the whole High Republic initiative, which is a very exciting thing. There's some really cool stories coming. We all know about them. You guys don't, most of you anyway. We'll try to open that up to sort of pull the curtain back on some of these stories now. So before we get into the new stuff, why don't we just sort of talk about Star Wars generally? You know, I know this is something we've all talked about a little bit before, but it tends to be something people like to know. Like, how did we all find our way to Star Wars? What matters about it to us? You know, what's important about this crazy thing that we all kind of live and breathe every day? Claudia, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I am of the generation that grew up with the original theatrical release. I turned 7 the summer that it came out. So I either saw it for the first time when I was 6 or 7. And like I've always said, that is a really good age to have your relationship to reality severed permanently beyond repair. And I never wanted to go back. So, and of course it just took over. And I think like people who weren't alive during the time, or at least, you know, sort of aware during the time of the monoculture, cannot get how huge it was. It was everywhere. They talked about it on every show. There was the disco remix of the themes. Remember, that was on the radio all the time. And I was as caught up as anybody. We saw it 4 times in theaters, which may not sound like that much, but we lived out in the true boonies and you had to drive several towns over to get to a theater. So it was a big deal to see anything in the theater, much less to get there 4 times. But yeah, it's been a part of my life ever since. Always.
How many times do you think you've seen A New Hope now?
Oh my God, I can't even begin to count. I can't, especially because I'm at the stage down. Also for books, you know, where you could just drop in or out of the movie. Somebody else you're like, oh, here we are, of course. Or things like, I remember with Lost Stars, I actually had to be like, what shape are the windows on a Star Destroyer? It's just not the kind of detail I had memorized. So it's like, okay, I just need somebody to go by a window on a Star Destroyer, please.
Well, that is what Story Group is for. Cavan, how about you?
For me, it was the comics before the films. So I was just a little bit too young, and also a scaredy cat and scared of Chewbacca, unbelievably, when the first film came out. But I discovered it through the Marvel Comics, the original run from the 70s. We used to have a comic over here, Star Wars Weekly, which separated stories up into weekly chunks and added some Marvel heroes in the back as well. If they were vaguely linked to Star Wars, Star-Lord was there because he shared a word. And so, yeah, that was my way into it. My very first issue featured a green rabbit, got the reference.
I was going to say, I had a feeling that's the start of your obsession. Yeah.
I know, but it absolutely was. And then I went to see Empire for the first time when it came out for my first film. So it was a mixture of I was introduced to Han before I was introduced to Luke, because those are the issues first that I read. But yeah, it was the comics for me.
Great. Justina.
I actually don't know the answer to this question because this is one of the questions that we have all the time. And I think like memory is so weird because I think we went and saw Return of the Jedi in the movie theater because I would have been in like kindergarten or before kindergarten when that came out. But I actually don't know. I do remember watching a lot of the Ewok specials on TV when I was a kid. So I really, really liked the Ewoks because, I mean, they're furry and they're like, yum nub, and like, it's ridiculous. And when you're a kid, I was also a big Care Bears fan. So like Ewoks were like Care Bears adjacent, right? Like Care Bears are like, let's talk about your feelings. And then Ewoks are like, let me eat you. So it's sort of the same thing, right? Yeah. So like, I think it's one of those things. It's definitely, it's really weird because like we always like have these like a lot of the other Star Wars authors are like Claudia, but they're like, I remember the exact time, but I just think it was like always there. Like I think it's like, I mean, I grew up in Southern California, so like obviously, that was when I was growing up, you go ride the movies and stuff like that, and I just remember like it was always there, and if it wasn't there, there was something that was influenced by it, like I think it was Michael Jackson had Captain EO or whatever, and and I was like, Michael Jackson's in Star Wars. And so like, I don't know, like it's really strange when you think back at it. I do know Phantom Menace was one of the first movies I saw with my husband when it came out, because we were in the Army and he was like, I want to go see the Star Wars thing. And I was like, okay, yeah, we can go do that. And I just remember because like everybody else was like, I don't think I want to see that. And my husband's like, would you come and see this movie? I was like, yes, of course. And so, Star Wars helped me snag a spouse. So yay,
Excellent. Daniel?
I, like Justina, am a Return of the Jedi kid, but I was the other end of it because the Jabba's Palace was like the foundational scene for my whole creative career. I was 3, and it was the first movie I saw in the movie theater, and it blew my mind, and I ran out screaming when the Rancor came on, and then I came back in, and then I kept going back, and seeing it over and over, demanding my parents take me back. And then the next thing I actually remember being obsessed with, one of those behind the scenes documentary specials that they did like in those days that showed all 6 people or whatever who were inside Jabba the Hutt and all the different creature shops that they had and the layers of foam and latex and all that. And I just thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And I wanted to make creatures. So this is kind of the next best thing, writing the books. But also to Cav, we had one issue of the Marvel Comics Star Wars run. And it was one where Boba Fett crawls out of the Sarlacc pit, goes on a couple of adventures, and then gets tossed back into the Sarlacc pit at the end of it by Han and Leia, who are riding on a sand trawler with the Jawas. And it's amazing. And I remember it so clearly. And I dug it up recently on Comixology and read it again. And it's still a whole mess, and I love it.
So I want to tell you guys, we have 124 open questions in the Q&A, wow. And I want to get to every single one of them. So I'm going to be very quick with my Star Wars origin story, just by saying I was doing the math today. I've been working in Star Wars professionally as a writer since 2014, when I started working on the Lando miniseries that kicked everything off for. So that's like 7 years. That's a third of my life. It's a long time, and I've been. It's just, I feel like it's always been there for me. But so moving next to the next thing. So we kicked all this off really. I mean, we talked about it and all that stuff, but we really met for the first time in a hotel bar in Northern California. And we all sat and had a drink together. We met each other, and then we got on the road the next morning.
I like the idea that it was just at random. Like we all just showed up at the same bar.
I was wondering where the story was going.
You guys would be fun to do a multi-year mega publishing initiative with. What do you think? So we got in a van the next morning. Got in a van together. It was a great night. We got in a van, and then we drove up the road together to an incredible place. We made a pilgrimage that I own a hat from to this very day, Skywalker Ranch. And like I said, I want to get through at least some of, now it's 140 questions, so I want to get through some of those. But who wants to try and encapsulate what that was like? I think one of us should do it. Who wants to talk about
the van or the ranch?
Well, Cav, you just volunteered, so you choose.
Right, Cav is still there. Cav is actually at the ranch right now.
I've never left.
At full disclosure, we stole the van.
And we smashed through the gate. We fought our way in. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Cav.
The ranch is magic. I mean, for anyone who's been a fan of George Lucas and Lucasfilm, it's just one of, and movies in general, for the last 30 years, you just know the name. It's like Shangri-La. It's like, it's that place where movies are made and you can't quite believe you're walking through the gates. Daniel and I just spent the entire first week just because we used to we obviously have the sessions, we work together, then we'd go off walking and we'd come back. And every time Daniel and I crossed, we'd just go, "This is amazing!" I'm not quite believing we were there. And I mean, we've all talked about sort of there's various areas in there, but the one place that still comes back to me is the library, because literally as you walk through to that, you're passing, the Holy Grail literally is beside you. There is just stuff from Lucas's movies everywhere, and you just know it's a place that's created to be creative. I don't think we would have bonded so well together if there hadn't been that bar, there hadn't been that van, and definitely if there hadn't been that ranch.
Absolutely. So moving along, so we've been there twice. COVID willing, we'll get to go there again someday. But out of those sessions and a million phone calls, a million Zooms, a million sort of chit chats and emails came a set of incredible stories that launched last January. The first was actually this guy, Light of the Jedi.
Who wrote that, Charles?
Pardon me?
Who wrote that?
Oh, it says, Cav, you got it right there. Charles Soule wrote it. I wrote it.
Isn't the paperback coming out soon?
Yes, the paperback is actually out tomorrow, which is very exciting. Because I love this book very much, and I would like a smaller, more flexible version of it, like Nobody's Business. Man, it's all I've ever wanted. So that is the book, the novel that kicked it off. It's a Del Rey adult novel. It introduced the era of the High Republic, which is set 200 years before the Skywalker saga that we're also familiar with. Introduced a brand new cast of Jedi in their prime. The High Republic era is a time when the Force is very the galaxy and the Force are very settled and strong and connected. And so the Jedi can do some really amazing things. And so it introduced sort of that framework, that galaxy, and the main antagonists in the initiative, who are called the Nihil. So that was my book. It's a heck of a read. You might still be able to get the hardcover if you move fast. If not, as we said, the smaller, more flexible version is available tomorrow. But that was only one of 5 projects that was launched right around the same time last January. Let's see, who wasn't? Justina, yeah, we're going to you. What was your High Republic launch project?
Well, my little High Republic launch project, Charles, was a book called A Test of Courage. It introduced Jedi and somebody bad called the Nihil. Also, you did not warn me there was going to be a book report part of this panel. I didn't read it. I don't know what happened, so don't ask me.
Our actual Emperor Palpatine, Mike Siglain, who's the incredible executive who brought us all in, the Lucasfilm exec, gave me a list of talking points and questions, which you guys don't have. So who knows what I might ask you guys. Also, so just no pressure, but there are now 191 open questions in the chat, which is why if I feel like I'm talking fast, that's why I'm talking fast.
No pressure.
All of them.
Yes, Test of Courage is super awesome. Claudia, what's that behind you? You got something behind you?
See, that makes me want to go, oh my God, it's terrifying. But actually, it's Into the Dark, which was my first High Republic work and the first YA book released in the initiative.
Cavan.
Hello.
What have you been doing?
I've been doing the Marvel ongoing series, which launched the day after Light of the Jedi. And it largely takes place on Starlight and stars Keith Trennis and her master, Skier.
And my understanding is it is now in its 94th printing.
Yeah, I think we're going for 1 million printings now.
A million printings. I love it. I love it.
Sure. Can we say that? Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And equally successful and equally comic booky is Daniel Jose Older's story that launched everything. Hit us. Not literally, please.
The High Republic Adventures from IDW. You can get it every month at your favorite comic book stores. And if we follow a group of Padawans across the galaxy, along with Master Yoda, having all kinds of ridiculous adventures, shenanigans, and various misadventures, including finding a young, Force-sensitive person who is not a Jedi and trying to figure out what the heck they're supposed to do with her. And also having run-ins with the Nihil and Markion.
Now, I would be remiss if I did not, as a longtime comics person myself, if I did not ask you guys to mention the name of your primary artistic collaborators on both those books.
Harvey Tolly Bao is incredible, has been doing incredible work, and Rebecca Nolte has been doing the colors, and Jake M. Wood does the, and they are, it's such a great team, with an assist from Power Rodriguez, who does great work.
There you go. All right.
On the Marvel, it's Ari Arendito and Mark Morales, and they are superb.
Yeah, the books are beautiful. They're all, I mean, you know, the concept art, the cover art for the books, everything about these stories is really beautifully designed and put together. And I think we're all really proud to be part of it, I guess. I mean, here we are, you know. Okay, so that's what happened. I don't want to call it old news, but it is certainly not as new news
a long time ago.
Yes, not so far away. But what's happening this week is the next wave of stories is coming out, which is exciting. We got a new Del Rey, we got a new YA, we got an upcoming MG, which is slang for middle grade, not slang, industry lingo for middle grade. So why don't we talk about those books? Who wants to go? I mean, Cavan, just go for it. Rising Storm.
So The Rising Storm, boom, there it is. So this is the second Del Rey novel. It takes place around a year after Light of the Jedi, and the galaxy is all very relaxed now, and there's been nothing going on for a year. And they've got a big event called the Republic Fair, which is coming up, which is a big sort of world fair or world's fair for the Republic, which is Chancellor Lena So's chance to say, look, we're still here. We've made it. There was a disaster. It was great, but we've got over that. The Jedi have sorted everything out. You're all safe. Come to Valo, have lots of fun, be wowed, feel all together, and nothing will go wrong. Then something goes wrong.
Oh, no.
Yeah, spoilers.
Does the day get saved?
Well, you'd have to read the book and find out. And that's available tomorrow in hardback.
Not as small and not as flexible as Light of the Jedi will be.
But you can do serious damage to it if you want to, and we're not saying you should, obviously.
That's true. Well, it is the second installment, which is traditionally darker, so that's probably a good use of it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Daniel, you wrote a book that has one of my favorite titles in the entire initiative. There it is, looking super cool, beautifully designed. Race to Crashpoint Tower, which seems like a place you wouldn't want to race to because you're just going to crash, right? I mean, that's what it's called. So that's my impression. Tell us more.
That's the whole book. You race there, you get there, and you crash. It's a wrap.
Yeah.
Spoiler alerts. Also, let's shout out Peter Antonsen, who does the art for this and for Justina's amazing middle grade. There's full color art in here, and it is so beautiful. But Race to Crashpoint Tower, first of all, we meet once again some of our Padawans from the IDW, the High Republic Adventures with Latali Sola and Z Morala. And everybody converges on Valo, where the Republic Fair is happening. We also meet Ramjo Moran, this little dude here with the top knot. He is a Jedi who would really much rather be doing mechanical stuff, fixing things, putting scooters and speeders even back together and taking them apart with his friends, the Bombrak, or furry little creatures with attitude. And he's basically just trying to hide out in his shed and live his best life away from everything else. But all the eyes of the galaxy are on Valo, and big things are afoot, as Cav referenced, and hilarity and disaster strike.
All right, now Justina, you have a young adult novel coming out soon, coming out of the shadows. Right now it's shadowed, but you're about to bring it out of the shadows. What's it called?
I mean, it's called Out of the Shadows, Charles.
Oh, whoa!
You knew that.
Whoa! No, I didn't. Anyway, tell us.
I'm actually really excited because look, this is a finished copy, and you guys can't get this for another month. Oh no, it's so sad. So Out of the Shadows follows Sylvester Yarrow, who is kind of just a hauler because not everybody can be a Jedi, and some of us just have to like work for a living. And she's kind of had a run of bad luck. Her mom's been killed by the Nile, who are, even though nobody seems to, really want to talk about what's happening in the frontier, are still very much a threat. And then, just when she thinks things can't get worse, she's broke. It's hard to make ends meet. When there's lots of people going and stealing your stuff in the galaxy, it's really kind of sometimes hard to like make money, especially if they keep stealing your cargo and maybe your ship. And that's exactly what happens to Sylvester in the opening. She is kicked out of hyperspace somehow, and her ship, she's beset by Nile. And so she decides that I'm going to go to Coruscant and tell the Republic, look, this is what's happening on the frontier. You guys need to pay attention. She's basically lost everything at this point and has nothing left to lose. While she is there, she gets wrapped up in sort of a kind of political conspiracy with these two really well-off families feuding over this strange piece of the galaxy. And then at the same time, poor Vernestra Rowe, who is trying to learn how to have a Padawan, because she is, spoiler from A Test of Courage, Imri is her Padawan. She has a Padawan who's one of the characters from A Test of Courage. She's trying to figure out how to do that because she's a little young for a Jedi and she doesn't have maybe as much knowledge or experience under her belt, as well as, not everybody wants to deal with a Jedi who's all of 17, 18 years old. So all of this is going on. And of course, there are things in the shadows that we don't know that are happening. And if I tell you about them, then you won't go buy the book. But I will stress and say this. Don't read this book until after you've read A Race to Crashpoint Tower and The Rising Storm, because there are spoilers ahead. So spoilers ahoy, which is why it comes out a month later.
That is actually a great point that I think we all get asked all the time, which is what order should you read these books in? And the best order to read these books is the order in which they're released, because we take extreme pains to make sure that we don't spoil anything. And if there are spoilers that are unavoidable, they're tiny. So if you just sort of, I'm sure somebody on Reddit or somewhere, not to send people to Reddit, but whatever, has made a list of release order of the High Republic projects. And if you look at them, you can read them all in order, as many or as few as you like, but you will not be spoiled that way, which I think is good. All right, so I have some other questions on Emperor Siglane's punch list here. But we have 242 of these questions from listeners. Should we try to get over to some of those? Let's see what happens. All right, I think we should. We get now. Oh, one got dismissed. 241. So if that keeps going, it won't be so bad.
Was that right? So I'll stick to my questions.
Yes, but before we do that, before I get into the 241, I wanted to ask us all, Wave 2. We're 6 months in after 2 years of working on this thing. Wave 1 launched as hugely as it could, as successfully as it could. We wrote all these stories that people clearly really connected with, which is not always easy to do with work, but the High Republic really touched people's hearts. So how does that feel? How do you feel 6 months in, how does it feel to be part of this, have kicked it all off? Let's see, Claudia.
This is just me because of my pre-release paranoia that has gone all the way back to my first book. First sensation is relief. I'm always convinced with every new release, this is the book that suddenly everybody's going to turn into this torch-wielding mob out of Frankenstein and come after me. But no, instead, people really connected with it and got it in exactly the way that we hoped, if not even better than we hoped. Mm-hmm. So, if you're a person controlled by dread, like I am, I got to go even farther up the exhilaration ladder because I started way down in the basement.
Fantastic. Let's see, Daniel, how are you feeling?
I'm really happy. I love writing Star Wars. It's just a very joyful experience for me. And I've been enjoying myself this whole time. And I just had no idea what people were going to do with it when we put it in the world. It was just very much beyond me. And so when people loved it, it just became this icing on top of the cake. It means that, we're doing something that's really connecting with people on multiple levels. And I think that's, in terms of the reaction, I think that's my favorite part, is that people are just taking so many different things from it, even beyond, what we put into it. They're taking it, running with it, understanding different meanings, making connections to other Star Wars stories. And that's so great. And that's what, really is wonderful to see about the fandom, is just how much love there is and how connected they are to it. And like I said, I'm just having a good time. So I'm going to keep doing it.
Cavan, what about you?
I think it's when you see people being creative with what you've created. So, when we start seeing fan art, when you start seeing custom minifigs from Lego, that's incredible. And the other thing is when people say, because this entire thing is based over different media, comics, you've got books, you've got audio coming. And when you have that moment, so I haven't read a comic in years, but I picked up these issues and I've started reading comics again. Or I've had people, I've got an audio drama coming out in a couple of months, Tempest Runner. People are saying, I've never tried audio drama before, but I'm going to get that. I've pre-ordered it. So it's the fact that we're leading people into different ways to enjoy stories as well. That's always really fulfilling, because that's what you want to do as a storyteller.
Mm-hmm. And Justina?
I have anything new to add? What about you, Charles? Which
well, I'll tell you something, Justina. My favorite part of this initiative is really the story that we're all telling amongst ourselves, because there's the story that everybody gets to read, but then there's the story of the five of us meeting each other in that bar, getting in that van, and then
every time you say it that way,
guns blazing,
you're hey girl, you want to write a Star Wars?
Well, that's basically what it was like. And so
I see it more like the A-Team, to be honest.
Yeah, sure. The van contains multitudes, So we, it's just, we talk every day. We talk about good things, bad things. We all sort of talk through the pandemic. It's really, we've written other books, but doing it this way is a really, really special thing, and it's meaningful to me. So that's kind of the thing that sticks with me 6 months in. We'll see how I feel in, I don't know, 3 more months. Okay, so let's see here. 252 questions. I really don't know how to approach this, so I'm literally just going to scroll.
Random.
And I'm going to stop, and I'm going to pick one on the page where we are. Let's see. This is a pretty good one. What is the thing this is from Michael Blaha. Question for all the authors. What is the thing you're most proud of having contributed to the Star Wars saga?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
Great question. Yeah.
Well, just High Republic or generally?
I mean, Star Wars saga. So
okay. It was when I was working on Star Wars Adventures for IDW, and we used to go to cons. Do you remember cons? They're amazing. And people used to come to the sign-ins, and parents would bring their kids, or and it would be that we read this together. And for me, that was incredible. And again, it was the same thing. We had little kids who were reading comics for the first time because they were reading Star Wars Adventures, because we had, Rey on the front cover or whatever, so they picked it up. And that was pretty cool. And I think that's always going to be one of my highlights.
For me, honestly, I think it goes back to Bloodline because, I was just like 10 when Empire Strikes Back came out, which was just about the age to go like, Harrison Ford is a cute boy, and I got so into Han and Leia and have remained so into Han and Leia. And when it came time to write Bloodline, they let me know a couple things, not much, a couple things about The Force Awakens. And one of the things is that they weren't together at that point, but I got to write how long they had lasted and how it had worked. And the fact that this tragic thing happened that messed them up didn't negate everything that went before. To me, in a lot of ways, that was really fulfilling. It felt like going back to 10-year-old me and going, it mostly worked out.
Did we lose Charles?
Did we?
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
What can we do now?
Well,
we're unmoderated. Anything could happen.
Anything can happen. He's back.
Pick up our own question.
There he is.
Oh, he's back. All right. Oh, okay. Anyway. He's muted.
He's muted. We can just answer anything now. Let's go rogue.
Yeah, sorry about that. What happened? Because Claudia was answering and then everything froze and I got kicked out.
It was deep and heartwarming, and a few people cried. It was great. It was
I cried.
I was more asking about the chemical side of things. Did I just stop? Did I get kicked out, or did the whole thing stop?
No, we all carried on.
I doubt it. I found that very hard to believe. Anyway, so was that handled? Should we move on to another question? I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's see here. Skimming. I'm gonna bounce these around so we can get through as many as possible. So this I'm just gonna throw to Justina. This question is: what is different about writing in the High Republic in terms of its openness as compared with the Skywalker Saga, which has many more touchstones and established history you have to hit?
Yeah, I think we've all touched on this before, but one of the things that's nice about the High Republic is I don't have to worry about killing a character. Like if I want someone to die, it's mostly just like, hey, Cav, are you using this person? And Cav's like, nah, they can be dead. And then the character's dead. I think it's one of those things. It's like it's a lot more freedom. And one of the ways it's a lot more freedom is in how we build those character arcs. For the Skywalker Saga, you have movies and you have, a lot of other pieces of media that you're trying to kind of thread the needle through when you're doing your storytelling. In this case, as long as it doesn't mess up the other four writers, like we can do. And there's been times where we're like, hey, what did we have in mind for this thing? And we get together, and then the next thing you know, it's like, yeah, I think we're gonna do that. That seems like it works. Because we have those big building blocks in place, but it's always the details, the devil's in the details. So that's kind of, I think, my favorite thing is just like knowing who I can check in with to make sure that, okay, let's keep the storytelling tight. Let's keep it in line and like make sure that we're all kind of pedaling in the same direction.
That's good. All right, I'm gonna, let's see so how about Cavan? Because I know that you have a prodigious workload. We all do, but I know yours is particularly prodigious. How far out do you start planning a High Republic project? Like how far out are you planning stuff that you're working on?
Well, in the last few days, we've been planning stuff for the end of phase 3. So, you know, we as Justina said, we've got those, we know where this is all going. There is a general plan. When it comes to the comic, I'm currently writing issue 12. And so I think issue 6 comes out tomorrow. But then it's sort of planned beyond that issue as well. So yeah, I mean, good sort of, I like to plan as much as possible, as long as possible. So yeah, I like to have that's just the way I work. So yeah, I try and plan a year or so in advance if I can.
So this is one specifically to me, which I'm going to just answer, you know.
Okay.
The question is, you know, Charles, you're working in both kind of current era Star Wars and High Republic. Are you going to try to connect the High Republic with you know, the Skywalker saga era of Star Wars? And I think we all do that and have done that. It's been something that's really fun to go in both directions, take things that you know will happen later in the timeline and seed them in the High Republic era, whether that's like the Santeca family in Light of the Jedi or many other examples, Staros, and Justina stuff, or we take things that we establish in the High Republic, and they references to them pop up in the Skywalker saga timeline era. So we've all been doing that. It's been really fun, especially when people make the connections. We just kind of drop it in, and I don't think any of us really point to it in any. You know, it's never like a neon flashing sign. It's just part of the lived-in history of Star Wars now. And so, of course, people would talk about things like the High Republic or the Great Disaster, or some of the planets or the Jedi outposts. So being able to do that, but also know that it's not just stuff that's been around for, 10, 20, 40 years that we're referencing, but it's the stuff that we kind of made up has been really, really fun. So I just did some of that, I don't know, last week when I was writing something that you'll hear about at some point. And I'm sure that I will. I'm sure that I will keep doing it. So will we all. Here's one for Claudia that I actually am curious about too. How old is Geode?
That is actually, he's cagey about it. The Vintians, they don't show their age quite as readily. I think he's probably older than most humans get, but not as old as like a Chewbacca, who of course is like in the prime of his life, right? Around the time of the original trilogy.
You're not supposed to ask a person their age. How rude.
Exactly.
But does he moisturize?
He doesn't have to quite so much. The rest of us. Sunscreen, sure.
There was actually another question in this list, which I think we can answer really quickly, which was, will we see Chewbacca be born in the books? I can't answer that. I can't say that he is born during the High Republic era. That's just math, people. That is mathematics. Okay, let's see here. I like this one. This one's good. How many phases will each wave have? Daniel, why don't you answer that one? How many phases will each wave have?
100.
It's actually, the phases are the big thing, and the waves are the stages within each phase. So
I think the correct answer is that is confidential information.
Yes, exactly. So there have been 3 phases for the High Republic that have been announced, which are Light of the Jedi, Quest of the Jedi, and Trials of the Jedi. And more than that, we cannot. Well, we could say more, but we absolutely will not. Sorry about that. Not really
like
sorry.
Our job.
Okay. How about? Well, let's see here. I'm gonna skip that one. Wow, there's a lot of questions here. 191 now, even though we've been answering them. Will we get to learn more about the High Republic Jedi Council? And they're not talking about the 5 of us. Who wants this one? Cavan?
I think the answer is yes, you will.
Very good. Very good.
Done.
Okay, good. We got through that. Excellent. How Are there any unanswered questions about the Star Wars galaxy that you hope to explore in the High Republic era? Currently, there are 291. Let's see here. Man, there's a lot of questions here. How about this one? How do you name your books? Justina, this is your favorite thing. You love How do you name your books, Justina?
Oh man, I don't name.
Yes, that's
I do
the
not
name.
name
You're
my
right.
books. I do not name my books. I have never named my books. One of the things I always talk. Actually, that's not true. I had a middle grade book come out in May called Ophi's Ghosts, and that's the only book I've ever titled. It went to my editor with that title, and it kept that title the whole way through. But everything else is a combination of my editors and the sales team. Because
Red Nation is a fantastic name.
Yeah, love it.
And see, so when that was suggested, I was like, oh, that sounds like a wrestling event. Dread Nation. Like, totally. Yeah, so I'm terrible at titles, and it's like one of those things. I can write you a 500-page book, but if you ask me to put together like 3 words that like sum it up, and I'm like, oh, I cannot do that. So editors and usually sales teams usually come up with titles. And I think like everybody else here has chipped in with their own titles. I know we've workshopped some titles together.
But I think they've all had working titles. So The Rising Storm was Strength of Unity for a long time, but that was never going to be the book. But that's what it was called.
But I like Rising Storm better too.
Yeah, it's a good
I
title.
think the Unity sounds like a
No, but it was just, it's in the book, Chloe. So it was going to be that moment when you go, oh, look, that's the name of the book in the book.
You're like,
but it was never going to be called that properly.
For Race to Crashpoint Tower, they gave me like 3 or 4 names, and I was like, absolutely not for all of them. And then I was like, it's got to be fast. It's got to be fast paced because they're racing around the whole time. Race. And then I was like, it's got to sound like explosions, like there's things blowing up. Crash. And then the rest is history.
And there's a tower.
So I literally named the peak in that area just so I could have that as the title.
Another question that I think is interesting to think about, because it's something that we're all dealing with, especially as we move into wave 2 and even sort of beyond. We're going to have to be writing each other's characters that other, one of the other 5 made up and probably feels some kind of ownership over and their story and their background and all that stuff. How does that feel? How do you approach it? And I think maybe this would be interesting for all of us to sort of hit, unless it stops being interesting and we'll move on. But then, and secondarily to that, are there any characters from the other writers that you're interested to write or would love to really, or have really enjoyed writing? Let's see. Go ahead, Danny.
The crew from the vessel from Claudia's fantastic book, Into the Dark, shows up in the IDW High Republic Adventure series starting next month, in fact. And they go on a big misadventure with Farzala and Quart. And as soon as I read that book, I was like, I can't wait to write these characters. They're so much fun. They're so weird. They're exactly the kind of Star Wars that I love personally. One of them is a rock, all of those things. And so I just really enjoyed it. And I immediately, let Claudia know that there was a draft of the script and, for her to check out, and made sure that she blessed it and everything else. I also really enjoyed writing Vernestra, who's an amazing character. And I think it was really obvious to me that her and Lula had a lot to say to each other as 2, young people involved in the Jedi Order. I think there's so many interesting conversations to be had for young people, who are in this world, and, the world is changing very fast, and the Jedi Order is in a period of change, and all these things are happening. It's fascinating. So to me, that's one of the best parts about the whole thing. Like, it's challenging for sure, but it's a really fun kind of challenge because we all have each other there to check in with, and that's what we do.
Mm-hmm. For my part, I am excited to at some point write Stellan Gios. I think he's a very interesting character, and he's sort of, there's a long time friendship between Stellan and Elzar Mann and Avar Kriss, and I introduced Elzar and Avar, but Cav, and he pops up in Light of Jedi, but really Cav has been the primary author for Stellan, and so it would be interesting to sort of fill out the third leg of that triangle, I guess. So yeah, and I think in terms of how you approach it, you just, you read what the other folks have done, and then you just try to be respectful. Don't murder them unless, maybe ask the person first before you murder them. either the person or the character, and just kind of, try to write a good story. For me, whenever anybody's writing any of my characters, it's a thrill when they're written well and they do cool things. It's particularly if they do things that I maybe wouldn't have done with them, which is a really neat thing. So anyway, does anyone have anything else to add on this, or should we move on to, okay, because we're at 330. Whew, whew. Knocking them down. We're making real progress.
How long was this chat?
Well, apparently, buckle in, fellas. And I'm sorry that it's late in England, Cav. But
I blame you personally for that.
I'm trying.
This feels like when you're revising and the book keeps getting longer and longer, and you're further away. But you're like, oh no, I thought we were doing good.
How did that number go up?
Yeah. Let's see here. Well, this is nice. I was inspired by the character of Vernestra, who created her. I've become a writer since. Thank you. And that's not a question, but that's from David Solomon, and we all know who did it. And she's gonna say so now, I hope.
Yeah. Yay.
It was Justina. Yeah. That's awesome. That's really nice. Here's an interesting one. Since the Republic Golden Age, the High Republic is considered a golden age for the Republic, and the Jedi is being explored. Will we see views from bounty hunters? That's from Glendon Schmitz, which is something we've actually talked about quite a bit, bounty hunting, because it's not something that's popped up yet. Do we want to say anything about that other than say it's something we've spent time talking about?
I think that's enough.
Okay, yes, I think that's right. Let's see here. Do the Nile make an appearance in Solo, a Star Wars story? Anyone? Okay.
If so, it's news to me.
Well,
I wouldn't put anything
came out before we made them up.
Yeah, I wouldn't put anything past.
I suppose are they saying like the Marauders? The Marauders and now have a certain similarity, I suppose.
Yeah. I know, but it's just
they could be an inspiration to the Marauders. You never know.
Mm-hmm. How about this? How would one get into writing Star Wars books for Lucasfilm? Everybody wants to know this question, and all five of us have a different path of how it happened. Who wants it? Who wants to take this one? I just answered something.
I'll start. Just the first thing, and I find a lot of people don't realize this, is you have to write a whole lot of other stuff before you write Star Wars. One, they want to see your work. They see the kind of thing that you do. Two, they need to know that you are capable of working professionally with deadlines, with editors, that you can handle yourself at promotional events, this sort of thing. You have to clear those bars first. If just love of Star Wars could get you there, I think all of us probably would have broken in a lot earlier than we did. But unfortunately, you have to build, not unfortunately, but you have to build your own independent career first. Now, after that, somebody else can pick that up.
Yep.
That's what it is. I think it's about it's about storytelling. Like the thing we love about Star Wars is that it's a great story. And that's the most important thing about being a Star Wars writer. And then it's about, I think what's so great about this era of Star Wars books, especially, is that folks are really able to have different voices, and that there isn't like a Star Wars voice. It's something I think we all love about like The Mandalorian, is that each episode is directed by a different director and they have a voice, right? And we feel that voice. And, Star Wars is really good about encouraging people to be who they are. And that travels across the board. So, I don't think it's about trying to like be the best Star Wars writer that can mimic Star Wars, the movies. It's about being able to tell a story, have a voice, and have something to say.
Yep, I think that's right. Here's a good one. Do I need to finish reading Light of the Jedi before I start reading either of the two books that come out tomorrow? I would say yes, you do. And I urge you to pick up the paperback. So that if you already read it in hardcover, I urge you to pick up the paperback so you can refresh yourself before you get into the new books.
It's important to have both, right?
I mean, do you want a complete collection or not? Do you want your bookshelf to look good or not? It's I don't know. Some people are weird, but I certainly think that's important. Cavan, not a question, but I love that Grogu behind you. Everyone loves that Grogu.
Oh. I was like, who amongst us? Oh, yeah. That's beautiful.
Yes. Let's see what else we got here. how is the work between one novel and another to connect the stories? So basically the question here is, what do we do to make sure it all kind of is consistent and works from, I guess, character and story and all those points? And Cavan, why don't you get that?
Well, the first thing we do is, as we said earlier on, we talk to each other all the time, and we are sharing outlines, we're sharing ideas, we have weekly meetings when we all get a chance to throw things around. It does mean you can still have accidents when you're writing, because this is one of the best things about writing, is that characters can surprise you. And there's absolutely a bit in The Rising Storm when I was writing Marky and Rose, spoiler, he's in it, where completely surprised me. But what we've done is the structure we've given ourselves is that we've given ourselves the chances to still have those moments. And some of those can come from the fact that we're both working on, the two of us could be working on a story at the same time, and we accidentally hit along certain themes or certain events. And actually, usually what happens then is far more exciting than when you would be doing it on your own. So yeah, we make sure that all that framework's there, but we give ourselves the freedom to explore as well when writing.
I have a question here that I like a lot, just because it's so specific and part of the fan community that I really think is cool. I think we all like it. It's from the cosplay and costuming community. And it's from Caitlin Jacques. I know that the costuming community has asked some of you about this before. Thank you so much, Justina and Daniel, for joining us for Rebelthon. But I have to ask again, are we likely to see more Jedi from the back in the next wave of the High Republic? And I needed to process that question and be like, well, is this a sexy question? I didn't know what they were talking about. But then I realized it's because they want complete costumes in the comics and stuff so that they can design them thoroughly, which I just thought that was cool. So I throw it to you guys. Are we going to see some Jedi backs in future projects?
I regularly say, in the scripts, we look past characters, so they should be.
Very good. Yeah, very good. Okay, well, you're doing the good work for the cosplay community, Cav, and I know they appreciate it. I know they do.
Thank you.
I kind of want to ask them what it's hyper specific and strange. So I'm not going to, and especially since I just told the person that their question was strange live, which is not nice. What new animals are in the books? I want to see more about the puffer pig. That's from Heather Mitchell. Are there any new animals coming up in this new wave of books that people might be excited about?
There's new monsters.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, I mean, I told you my origin story of Star Wars is basically Jabba's palace. So, the monsters are my happy place. And both Race to Crashpoint Tower and The Rising Storm are full of wild and amazing monsters, including one very cool crossover monster, which you will get to see in the art of Race to Crashpoint Tower, and actually several crossover monsters.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
One thing about that crossover monster is that Daniel named, in an early draft, the monster, but didn't describe what the monster looked like. And then when he got my draft, he went, "It's got 3 heads." And, yes, it has.
I didn't know that. No one told me. We don't have the Wikipedia entry for that yet, so how was I supposed to know? Yes, I love that. That's like the collaborative process to a T. That is the perfect example, because there it is.
3 heads.
But also, look out for the Sandval, which is a very cool creature that is in both books. I think those 2 books are really amazing in that they are in conversation with each other in a whole, really, really deep and intricate way that is really kind of what the whole project is about.
And there's one scene where you see it from a different point of view. So from a certain point of view, you might say. And it means that actually you're seeing the same scene through different eyes. So you're actually seeing slightly different versions of it as well, because it's how the person is interpreting it. So that was fun to do.
Here's a question that I think is also pretty good. Will we get more non-Jedi content? Maybe some more about the Republic Defense Coalition or something like that. And I think it's interesting because it is something that we spend a lot of time on in the High Republic. It's because there are Jedi and there's a big focus on them. But we also do a lot with many other characters, like the characters on the vessel and Into the Dark and all over the place. Another place that I think you should look for those kind of stories where we've made a particular focus of them is the insider stories, right? I know that for mine, it was very much about non-Jedi characters, so I just thought were cool, and I know that Justina and Cavan have picked up that torch and run with it. So do you want to say a little bit about those stories and where they can be found, Justina, I guess?
Sure. So you can pick up fiction in the Insider magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't have my copy, but so Charles kicked off the original fiction that's in Insider in the December issue, right? Is when
just before
and then Cav picked up that torch and ran with it, and we got to meet Felko, Jahan, and Gal Tarpfin, and all these other cool Republic officials who are just kind of like living their life and working on Starlight. And then those characters continue into the first half of fiction that just came out this month. I think it just came out. It's called, and it's A Hidden Danger, and that is the same characters. What's yours is First Duty, right, Cav?
Yep.
There are like so many
and then
titles.
Those characters then they've started to turn up in the comics, and one of them in particular plays a big part of Tempest Runner as well.
I would also say Trail of Shadows, which is the upcoming Marvel miniseries that I'm running. We pair off a Jedi investigator with a private detective, and there's also just lots of into the underworld and all kinds of exciting things. We also get to see a little bit more about how the Republic does certain military things. That's really exciting. So check that out if you're looking for some Jedi, but also non-Jedi content. True Detective season -1,000.
I think it's really a it's fun to be able to talk about, to tell stories about characters who are on the outskirts of the Star Wars galaxy, because those are always the people who are really fascinating. Like if you look at that cantina scene, there's a lot of people who have interesting stories in that in A New Hope, but they're not the focus. They're not the princess or the Jedi or the scoundrel, so we didn't get to tell those stories. But in Insider and lots of other corners of the High Republic, we do, which is good. Let's see. I saw when I wanted to throw to Claudia, it was another Geode question, but I've lost it because there are now 371.
Answer was yes.
Yes, I absolutely. It doesn't matter. Let's see. Hold on.
Holding on.
Lots of questions about things that we don't want to answer right now. Hold on. I want to get a really good one for the last one.
Should we, before we go, should we make sure we answer the question of when we're going to have more answers about?
Yep, that is the last thing that I was going to go to. I'm already there, Daniel, but thank you for trying to moderate.
I could have
sworn I was a moderator, but cool. That's cool.
Dan just wants to know, when does he have new stuff out?
I'm just trying to find out myself. Like, can I get some answers?
Like, I don't know what's happening right now.
I'm supposed to say goodbye to everybody. You better say it quick.
Mm-hmm. How about this? What were your main sources of inspiration for the overall visual look of this era? Everybody name one thing. Claudia, you start.
NCYF illustrations, that same sort of vibe of idealistic but really vivid, and it has that sort of mythological feel to it.
Super cool. Cavan.
Excalibur, the movie.
What you say? Which movie?
Excalibur, the John Borman.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. Justina.
Art Deco.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Daniel.
It's kind of cheating, but the behind the scenes of the Return of the Jedi, where it shows some of the concept art sketches and stuff, like really amazing stuff that is, a lot of it still unused.
Yeah. For me, it was a lot of just 1960s era, space race stuff and science fiction from that time, when they were kind of exploring the idea of what spaceships would look like, and both in real life and in fiction. So that would be mine. Okay, so we have gone through an hour. We have 385 open questions, so I think we killed it. I think we did an incredible job, you guys.
We did. You did. Good job, Charles.
Yeah, but I hope everybody watching has enjoyed. I think we've all had fun, and I hope this also shows you guys that how kind of joyful this experience is for us, and how we enjoy spending time together, even when it has to be in little boxes on a screen. So there will be more news about new stuff coming. Is it going to be soon, or is it going to be like months and months for these people? When are we going to start talking about more stuff?
How about next month?
Next month.
Justina. All right.
Next month.
Next month.
All right. So that would be, and next month is in next month starts in 3 days. So it's really not that long. Don't expect anything July 1st. That was not a promise. But expect some more news about the High Republic in in July. So thank you all so much. This was a blast. I think we all had a lot of fun. And if you didn't, I'm telling you, you did. And we will all talk to you really soon. Okay. Good night.
Great job, Charles. See you later, everybody.